What's going on, guys? I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and you know, when that HTC Desire HD was announced for Europe and I saw it at CTA, I was like, this is a hot device. It looks good, it's a big screen, it's running Android 2.2, it has the latest editions of HTC Sense 2.0, and it's just all around an awesome device, but it was only available in Europe. I was like, this has got to come to the US. Well, it has. The HTC Inspire 4G is now available, or actually it's going to be available on the 13th at AT&T for $99.99. after rebates. Great deal considering the price barrier right now is $199.99 for most of the smartphones on the market. And you get a lot of bang for the buck. You get a 4.3-inch display, 1 GHz processor, 8-megapixel camera with a flash, awesome display, I think I already said that. Android 2.2 with HTC Sense 2.0. It's actually the first US device to come with 2.0 pre-installed. So cool device, awesome device in AT&T, and a great Android contender along all those Droid devices on Verizon. We'll take a look at it at the full review, but first, special thanks to our friends at Best Buy. They hooked us up with 2 of these so we can give them away to you in the One Paw Bandit game. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you walk out working, you buy this, they'll help you set up your email, help you set up the web browser, get you set up and ready to go out the door. Enough of that, let's check it out. HTC Inspire 4G. See what it can do. So here it is, the HTC Inspire 4G. It's coming to AT&T on February 13th, so Sunday, and it's $99.99 after rebates. You know, when you really look at it, I mean, it's a high-end device, and it's really an Evo, you know, with a revised design and on GSM, a GSM network in the United States. Design's revised. It looks much better, in my opinion. I like the metal unibody form factor. It feels a little bit thinner, and overall looks great. I was a big fan of the Desire HD when it came out, so needless to say, I'm very impressed with this design. I'm also very impressed with the price. I mean, $99.99 for what you get in this package. You know, it bucks that $199 trend that we've seen for the past year or two with most of the other devices. You know, everything's $199.99, and it's nice to see a device launch that's cheaper. I mean, it's a good device as well. Just to recap on some of the specs, excuse me, 1 GHz Snapdragon processor, 4.3-inch display, 8-megapixel camera with a flash on the back, micro SD card slot, which can be accessed under here with your SIM card, of course. Micro SD card slot, and it comes with, I believe, an 8 GB? Yeah, 8 GB micro SD card. And then, of course, you have your battery, and it's 1,230 milliamps. Now, here's the downside. You know, the battery's pretty small, 1,230 milliamps. The Evo's, just to keep that in mind, 1,500 milliamps. And you know, the Evo, you know, it's not praised for its battery life, let's put it that way. So, you know, considering this is same size screen, same version of Android, it's a different version of Sense, but we'll get to that in a second. You know, it's one of those things. I mean, you know, I've been using this as my personal device for, you know, 5 or 6 days, and I have not made it through the day once with moderate use on a charge. So, you know, something to keep in mind, you're going to need a spare charger if you're anything more than a basic or light user. But I do like the battery cover. It's hard to remove, but once you get the hang of it, you know, the trick to me, or on my side, was to click it right there and it opens. But here's your battery, same battery that the HD7 has, and it goes into the side. And the downside, you know, it is a unibody construction, which looks beautiful, unibody metal rather. But the downside is there's no expansion possibilities for the battery unless they can make it the exact same size. Otherwise, what are they going to do? You know, spin it out the side? No. There's no way to add, you know, a battery door on the back or anything of that nature. But as I said, you know, 4.3-inch display, Android 2.2 with HTC Sense 2.0. Now, there are some new customization options on Sense 2.0, some new skins, some new wallpapers, and things like that. So you can see, we'll jump away from that for a second, get into some of the design things here at the bottom. Home menu, back and search, capacitive buttons, and the HTC logo. Now on the bottom you have your micro USB charging port, your 3.5mm headphone jack, power button on the top, and volume rocker on the side. No camera shortcut button, and no HDMI port either. So, you know, two things to keep in mind. You know, it is cheaper, but you do lose those things. I'm also having the same problem with the power button that I had with the HD7. After using it for a week or so, give or take, the power button's kind of recessed down into the housing, which, you know, as long as I'm pressing it up here, it's fine. But when I go to do a quick press, I find that oftentimes it doesn't take because it's so recessed into the device that it's, you know, it's not responding. So it might just be my unit, but I saw that with the HD7, and I'm kind of concerned that it's happening with this one as well. Not concerned enough to where I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, it's still a great device, but you can see it's pretty recessed up against that metal, combined with the fact that it's kind of curved anyway. so it makes it challenging to press. Anyway, as I said, Android 2.2, Sense 2.0, and you can tell that it's Sense 2.0 because it has this little paintbrush thing over here that when you click on it, it pulls up kind of a different personalization menu than you've seen in past Sense devices. It offers you the ability to change your scene, your wallpaper, your skin directly from this menu, and then do other things like add widgets, apps, shortcuts, and folders. So now, when you go to the homepage and say, I want to add a widget right here, it brings up the personalized menu as opposed to what it used to bring up with this list right here. So slightly revised version. It also supports HTC Sense.com, which is kind of like HTC's Mobile Me, if you will. It gives you the ability to ring your phone if you've lost it somewhere in the house. Even if it's on silent, you can ring your phone if it's in the couch, wherever, and you can locate it by the ring. It also gives you the ability to disable your phone, lock it remotely, and wipe your data. So some cool features in addition to the ability to go to HTC Hub and download new wallpapers, new themes, new skins, and more to personalize the device. So they've created this little mini ecosystem of sorts with Sense 2.0. It's nice to see it. This is actually the first device in the US to get Sense 2.0, which you know, is surprising because AT&T is notorious for not upgrading or not, you know, launching the latest and the greatest on the software front. So it's nice to see, you know, it's a welcome change there. Apps that come pre-installed, the typical AT&T stuff, AT&T Family Map, AT&T Code Scanner, AT&T My Wireless, Navigator, and then you get the programs like Blockbuster, some that I've installed, Color Note, typical HTC stuff, Desk Clock, then you get Facebook, Flashlight, that's a cool app, I've used it several times. You'll notice that little icons like the footprints have changed, and then you get, of course, like I said, your HTC Sense.com stuff, and then you, down here at the bottom, YP Mobile and Wi-Fi Hotspot. Now this is a Wi-Fi Hotspot enabled device. You can connect devices to this and use it as a portable Wi-Fi hotspot. It is an additional fee from AT&T, but it's nice to see them including that feature now. They're finally realizing that it's kind of the wave of the future, and you know, they were going to be left behind if they didn't put it on their devices. Unfortunately, I know what you're thinking. The AT&T devices or AT&T applications cannot be removed. They are there, and there's no side loading of apps either on this device. You're kind of stuck there. If you want to side load an app, that's a non-Android market app, you do not have the option to do so. No non-market apps. Let's take a look at some of the widgets on this device, and it's unfortunate because I really wanted to show you HTC Sense.com and its features, you know, the ability to lock the device. But, you know, it worked on the first day that I got the device, and it hasn't worked since. I'm assuming it's because the Inspire 4G isn't officially out in the US yet. You know, when I went to sign up, it only gave me the option between the Desire HD, I think it was the Desire Z, as two devices, so Inspire 4G wasn't listed, so I'm assuming it's not supported and it's having issues right now, but hopefully at launch time we can go over that in more detail, maybe in a separate video. But you can see, you know, I brought it up and it gives me the personalization menu again. But we go to widgets and let's take a look. Not only can you see your list of widgets, but you can get more HTC widgets and you can browse them all in order. So you go to Bookmarks Calculator, you can see all the different types in one easy menu, and then you can go back if you want to see them in kind of a down format here. And, you know, they're combined, obviously. Like you look at Bookmarks, for example, HTC, Calculator, HTC, and then you look at Calendar, you'll see an HTC and an Android version. Obviously, there's an Android widget that Google packages in with Android. And then there's an HTC widget, which I happen to be a big fan of the HTC widget. You go back to something like this, the clock, go to CNN, the news feed here, and a couple of others. I mean, I just think they're absolutely beautiful widgets. They do a really good job with these. They look good, they're clean, and you can see, you know, they have quite a few options of HTC specific widgets and Android widgets as well. So we can go back up, you know, for example, let's go to, let's do Bookmarks. For example, you can see you have two options on Bookmarks, and with a lot of these you'll have two options. You can list them, you know, a big widget, a small widget, or a different way of listing them. But we'll bring this one up, for example, and it'll load up Bookmarks, and you can see the pages that I browsed recently. So I've been super impressed with the HTC Sense widgets. You know, as I've said before, when I review all these devices, they look great. I think they're the best looking widgets out of any of the platforms. Let's take a look at the messaging widget, or messaging app rather, and take a look. You know, you'll notice here on most of the Sense devices you have those three little options down here between all messages, SMS, and MMS. You don't have that here. It's a simplified version with a compose message button up there, and you hit compose and you can see what comes up. Again, 4.3-inch display makes the keyboard nice and large, easy to use, and of course you can do it in portrait or in landscape mode. So we'll go back to portrait and type the big gray skunk migrated to Canada for the winter. I don't know why you do it. I don't know why you go to Canada in the winter. It's cold. But the big gray skunk migrated to Canada for the winter. Maybe he had a friend up there. Maybe he was going to meet John. Who knows? Maybe they were going to hang out, you know, catch up or something. But he's going to Canada for whatever reason for the winter. So you can see keyboard's very easy to type on. And again, portrait and landscape mode there. And we'll click on that. And of course you can attach. You know, one thing I like about it, they've made the attach a little bit simpler, a little bit more simplistic. I can't talk today. Whereas instead of those little kind of, you know, icons that pop up and you're thinking, what in the world do these mean? It brings up an actual menu and says attach picture, video, audio, so you know out of the gate you can attach audio, an appointment, a contact, etc. So you do have, you know, that ability. So it's all in all, it's very clean, very easy to use. Let me jump into Gmail. I say this, you know, if you watch my 2.2 videos, you know these differences, but let's take just a quick look and see if you're running a 2.1 device or back. You can see, scroll up and scroll down through here, and you can see the header stays at the top regardless of where I'm at in the email, and other minor changes like reply, forward, all that stuff is up in the top left-hand corner now, and you can access that at any point throughout the email.